Well, in our study of evolution, we're looking at arguments for evolution that are outdated and often illogical. If they're going to act like this is science, this is the thing that's been proved, shouldn't the stuff actually make sense? But here we find that in this story of the fossils, the earliest ones are at the bottom and then climbing on up. A lot of them are out of place. And how do you figure that in? It's just here and there. What is it? Doctor Who is messing around with time or something? What's going on here? Frequently, fossils are discovered out of the vertically sequenced order assumed by evolution. So little plain animals at the bottom and then more complicated as you go. Walter E. Lemmertz has published 8 lists totaling almost 200 wrong order formations in the United States alone. They're just out of evolutionary order. See, and I give you the references that I looked at here that the author of this had looked at. Recorded instances of wrong order formations or presumed overthrusts in the United States. This is they say, well, what happened is somehow all that got turned over somehow. Creation Research Society Quarterly. And then Y. Kruzilin, that'd be an interesting name, and V. Ovcharov, A Horse from the Dinosaur Epoch. That was in Moskoyskaya Pravda, Moscow Truth. So they found it in Russia as well. Then Edwin K. McKee, a leading authority on the Grand Canyon, published photographs in the Supai Group of Grand Canyon Geological Survey professional paper 1173, that's a lot of papers. And he said this, or he points out on pages 93 to 96 and 100 of horse-like footprints visible in rocks that, according to the theory of evolution, they're in rocks that predate hoofed animals by more than 100 million years. Oops. It's just a horse in the wrong era. He just got lost somewhere in time and got there 100 million years early. That's a bad watch. Dinosaurs and human-like footprints are found together in Turkmenistan and Arizona. Oh, so close together. See Alexander Romashko, Tracking Dinosaurs, Moscow News, for an alternate but equivalent translation published by an anti-creationist organization. See Frank Zindler, Man, a Contemporary of the Dinosaurs, ? There's the evidence. Creation, Evolution, Volume 6, and so on. Are human and mammal tracks found together in the tracks of dinosaurs in the Kayenta of Arizona. So all of these are talking about it. Evidence is out there. Sometimes land animals, flying animals, and marine sea animals are fossilized side by side in the same rock. And you know they're millions of years apart in evolution. Dinosaur, whale, elephant, horse, and other fossils, plus crude human tools, have reportedly been found in phosphate beds in South Carolina. Phosphate rocks of South Carolina and the Great Carolina Marl Bed. Coal beds contain round black lumps called coal balls, some of which contain flowering plants that allegedly evolved 100 million years after the coal bed was formed. Oops. Amber, did you see Bud had the egg-shaped, I don't know if it was real amber, it felt pretty light. I think it was maybe plastic, but it was imitating, it had a big bug in it. He had that Sunday. Amber, found in Illinois coal beds, contain chemical signatures showing that the amber comes from a plant. It oozes out and then hardens. It came from flowering plants, but flowering plants supposedly evolved 170 million years after the coal formed. So it just snuck into the coal somehow. In the Grand Canyon, in Venezuela, in Kashmir, and in Guyana, spores of ferns, they don't have seeds, they spread by spores, and pollen from flowering plants are found in the Cambrian rocks. There's Precambrian, then there's Cambrian. We were talking about that, where all the life forms suddenly spring into being, and there's no former being, or later they've just all that life form. So they're found in that rocks that are supposedly deposited before flowering plants evolved. Pollen has also been found in Precambrian rocks before any life was supposed to have occurred, deposited there before life allegedly evolved. Now, the petrified trees in Arizona's Petrified Forest National Park contain, notice this, fossilized nests of bees and cocoons of wasps. The petrified forests are reputedly 220 million years old, while bees and flowering plants, which bees require, supposedly evolved almost 100 million years later. And yet, there they are in the petrified trees. See Stephen T. Hasiotis, paleobiologist, U.S. Geological Survey. Now, this big one is last. Pollinating insects and fossil flies with long, well-developed tubes for sucking nectar from flowers are dated 25 million years before flowers are assumed to have evolved. The idea of these tubes in the insects is that they evolved these so they could go to the flowers. And here they are, supposedly 25 million years before flowers. They were just a tube to see if it would work. More evolutionists and textbooks systematically ignore discoveries which conflict with the evolutionary timescale. So if it fits, everybody gets to hear about it. If it doesn't, we don't talk about that. The best preserved fossils are encased in amber, protected from air and water, and buried in the ground. So get ready for this one. Amber, a golden resin similar to sap or pitch, usually comes from conifer, cone-bearing trees, such as pines, may also contain other preservatives. In these things, where you can see the animal of that time in perfect preservation, no transitional forms of life have been found in amber despite evolutionary-based ages of 1.5 to 300 million years. So you have that vast span of time, by their thinking, and all of it trapped in amber, and there's recognizable insects, no in-between things at all. Animal behaviors, unchanged from today, are seen in three-dimensional detail. For example, ants in amber show the same social and work patterns as ants today. Evidently, they're talking about ants all gathered together in one amber thing. Now, experts bold enough to explain how these fossils form say hurricane-force winds must have snapped off trees at their trunks, causing huge amounts of resin to spill out and act like flypaper. Debris and small organisms were blown into the sticky resin, which was later covered by more resin and finally buried. We would say, obviously, that just happened as it was all being crunched together in the flood. Now, here's the one I was looking for. In a clean room laboratory, you know what that means? It means they have high air pressure in the room so that nothing comes into that room, nothing blows in, no dust at all. And everything is covered, and people are disinfected. What do you call it? They're cleaned before they get in there. So nothing, they'd bring nothing into it. It's clean room. In a clean room laboratory, 30 to 40 dormant but living bacteria species were removed from the intestines of bees encased in amber from the Dominican Republic. So they drilled into the amber, got into the bees. In the intestines, they found living bacteria. Wasn't doing anything, it was dormant, but it was living. When cultured, the bacteria grew. Now there's a scary story for you to write about the ancient bacteria alive again. What is it going to do? This amber is claimed to be 25 to 40 million years old, but I suspect, the author says, it formed at the time of the flood, only thousands of years ago. Now, it stretches the imagination to imagine this bacteria being dormant and staying alive for thousands of years, but it is more likely that bacteria can be kept alive thousands of years, or what do you think? Go ahead and throw in many millions of years? Don't you think it would have ceased? The fact is, metabolism rates, even in dormant bacteria, are not zero. They have to keep getting older. They have to develop and finally die. So, when you look carefully, you find that their theories don't hold up.